And we're coming to you live to invade your ear holes. This is Auditory Osmosis with your host, Ether Hawkins, and Mr. Nicholas Redda.
That's me. Oh wait, that was Butters again. Butters, get out of here. Butters, you have to leave. Thanks, buddy. Sorry.
So how's it going there?
This is Dick.
Nicholas Ritter.
Good. I just want to tell everybody we're in the Great Rocky Mountains right now. We made some edible treats, and it's delicious.
So Brock Lesnar notified of potential doping violation. Hit me with your thought stream.
Oh my gosh! Oh, duh. But I think what it was saying is it was a even pre-training. It was like his first drug test. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, but this is what I'm gathering. It was before he basically started even training for the fight.
Right. He failed out of competition test for UFC 200.
That was the word, out of competition. Yeah, or the phrase. Yeah, thank you. Out of competition.
And apparently WWE's like, we're supposed to frown on this, but Brock, good job. You're the man.
Technically, we still don't know what it is yet, but we'll find out soon. I'm sure we'll find out within the next 24 hours, or I will, because I'll find out. But,
well,
he's
a lot of things
regardless. So
he is inhuman. He's this specimen of excellence. He just waltzes into the room, and they're like, "That guy's definitely doping." And then he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm not doping." During the fights, I'm a prize fighter. I'll fight anyone.
He even said that he's like to some caller or something. I can't remember. I'm white and I'm Jack. Get over it. Like, so we'll find out. We'll find out really what it was.
Didn't Mark Hunt say, yeah, he's probably juiced to the tits, but I'll fight him?
Yeah, I'll fight him.
Yeah. Well, he did fight him, and he was.
He
was. He was correct. He was juiced to the tits, but that's
probably
the key. He was before.
Well, maybe the thing about it is like he may not have been juicing right now. If he failed for pre-contest and then he didn't fail anything after that, then what he may have failed for is an estrogen blocker, just like John Jones, because he got off the shit and he had to take another drug to counteract symptoms of steroids. Basically, what they get from higher estrogen levels or super high testosterone levels. One of the two, I think. Probably more.
Yeah, you know who else is juiced to the tits?
Who?
Nursing mothers.
Oh!
Anyways, Pokemon Go. It was slightly creepy. But Pokemon Go, I kind of brushed it off when we mentioned it. But I'm coming back with a deeper insight.
Of what part?
Of what it is. What it is. I mean, it's the normalization of the cyber digital stasis. And what I mean by that is like the digital stasis, the area or realm of inactivity. You think you're doing something, but you're really doing nothing because it's not real.
Well, you're okay. Let me be the devil's advocate, although I'm not backing it. But you're still going out and walking, or I guess some people are probably driving, but you're still getting outside. I mean, the shitty part is you're still looking at your phone regardless of where you're going. If you're going to the museum or if you're going to wherever, you're still staring at your phone. Chef told me today a story about
one thing, though. Nintendo loves to capitalize on that. I mean, if you look back to the Wii, they said, hey, mothers, fathers, daughters, sisters, brothers, come get some exercise. But we know most people who spent a lot of time playing the Wii did not gyrate and move like the commercials.
Well, they had like boards you can step on and stuff like that actually like help you be better, but nobody used those boards. Like they're balance boards and stuff like that. but nobody wanted to use that stuff, and they basically like stopped making it real quick.
So well, what was your story? Sorry to cut your train of thought there.
What was my story? Oh, Pokemon Go. Chef's told me a story today about a stoner. Well, he said it was a stoner type person. He was like, yeah, man, I was just walking and somebody stopped me and asked me what I was doing. And he said, man, I'm just trying to catch some Pokemon. And then the guy stabbed me, man. He stabbed me and tried to take my phone, but, you know, it sucks. I was just going to get, you know, some chips and a hot dog.
Right. The synthetic reality.
You got to catch them all, right?
Well, it's funny that someone like, you know, the person telling you that story would easily, I mean, I imagine him like pulling up a wiki page and being like, oh, this is the stoner page. This is what a stoner is. No, I know he's smarter than that, but he's 100% right. Like the humor in that story is a person who is encapsulated by a synthetic experience getting his kicks from more synthetic experience, and then life hits him in the face, right?
And he still wants the experience.
Right, and it didn't phase him because he's still in the dream state.
Gotta catch them all, man.
I saw that the Clinton campaign will be registering voters at a Pokemon gym, a Pokemon Go gym. So this is the level of like synthetic absurdity, the digital stasis where I guess I would say they're vultures, but you know, people playing Pokemon dead, they're not necessarily brain dead. So I don't know if the campaign would be a vulture-like creature, more of just a parasitic creature that kind of wiggles in and goes, oh, synthetic experience. Let me tap that.
That's why I refuse to do it. I refuse to download it. They even say you can have it in your computer now. Like,
well, can I read? I mean, we know that it goes into the whole GPS thing. I mean, people got to realize that this is just incrementally.
There's a lot that they're actually getting from you, though.
Well, this is just incrementally normalizing that kind of behavior. If we tell kids it's okay to stare at your phone and go out and about your day, and I get it, like, yeah, we live in a civilized society. You should be able to not pay attention to everything. That's why we have service environments, and we should feel safe in our society. But at the same time, it seems like, I mean, it just seems absurd that you would pay no attention to your environment. And in order for someone to pay attention to the environment, they need a facade or some kind of digital ploy to get them
augmented reality.
By definition, right? So yep. I was reading something that made me reflect instantly upon Pokemon Go. And I'm just going to kind of like run through this and paraphrase it. The heading for this little tidbit of information is: the task confronting contemporary man is to live with the hidden ground of his activities. So in propaganda, Jacques Ellul, and I probably slaughtered that last name, explains that the basic conditioning or shaping of populations is done not by programs for various media, but by the media themselves, and by the very language that we take for granted. Direct propaganda aimed at modifying opinions and attitudes must be preceded by propaganda that is sociological in character, slow, general, seeking to create a climate or an atmosphere favorable to preliminary attitudes. After this preparation of the ground, the whole cultural ground itself must be mobilized. Not messages, but the new configuration of the whole ground constitutes propaganda. Propaganda must be total. The propagandist must utilize all the technical means at his disposal: the press, radio, TV, movies, posters, meetings, door-to-door canvassing, etc. That is, the media themselves and the whole cultural ground are forms of language and what Bacon termed idols of the marketplace. So basically what Pokemon Go does is it does build the atmosphere, the climate. So the propaganda is preceded by something that is sociological in character, slow, general, and seeking to create a climate, an atmosphere of favorable basically favorable attitudes. And it uses idols of the marketplace. So Pokemon is an idol of the marketplace, right?
Not
Because
to mention all the idols inside of the game.
right. And so you have nostalgia playing off of the older crowd. You get to cut through the age.
Well, what's funny is right now
it's like re-releasing Star Wars.
There's almost nostalgia for anybody like 35 and younger because they've all done it since they were kids.
Right. So the key to this is to get people into augmented reality with something that is very innocuous, right? So the ground, basically they're using every method to get people to accept or normalize cyberstasis. Are you following me with this?
Yep.
So yeah, they're getting us to live in harmony with the hidden ground of our activities, because the hidden ground would be our imagination and the internet, right? You can't see that out in the physical world until you tap into it through your device, right?
Is it really is it imagination when you're looking at it on through your phone and it's putting it there for you?
Well, that's a different of like encoding and decoding. That's a different process, but you're somewhat correct because it does fill in the blanks for you. You don't have to think. The screen and machine gives you what you want, and therefore you do not have to think about it. Well, but that's a different discussion.
That's also what makes it great for them. The people that are, you know what I mean? It sucks, but it's true.
But that's just it. These programs, all right, so the program's Pokemon Go. The idol of the marketplace is Pokemon. So that's 2 steps. And then the third step is the sociological conditioning, an atmosphere that accepts or normalizes the behavior of the propaganda. So in order to play your Pokemon, you got to give over all of your GPS credentials to a third-party application. And they want that to be normalized because in a digital society where everything's tracked and traced, augmented reality fits in perfectly as an entertainment apparatus for the general populace.
I've also heard that they use your email for things, and they supposedly get into your email for things too.
Well, apparently that was a mistake, and they fixed a mistake, quote unquote. And Google had full access to like all your information through this.
Everybody through for 5 days. That's all they needed. How many million?
Well, and you know, mind you, that Google itself owned the company that built Pokemon Go, but then they sold it. Like it was originally a Google company. So there's that too. But yeah, I mean, Nintendo loves last time, and I still stick by that. On the surface, as a business decision, it's ingenious, right? Because what do you want to do with Pokemon? You want to get it on the go. And it's always been a handheld game, so it feels natural to transition to that, to augmented reality. But if people don't think, the point is you can go about your day-to-day business without filling your time spaces that are free with distractions and frivolous shit. I mean, you can do something productive. You don't have to play an application that seems innocuous, seems less harmful than something else. But then the underbelly of it all, it is kind of taking away your time, and it's also deconstructing the privacy of modern man.
Yeah.
I mean, we're deep into deconstructing the privacy of modern man, but I thought I'd lay that out because I feel redundant talking about Pokemon Go. If you go online, there's several different news sources, pro and con, talking about the effects of Pokemon Go. But I think as far as a deep sociological insight, I think it just normalizes the cyberstasis, and it gets families to bond over the propaganda.
Yeah, over something.
And you know,
that just
at the end of the day, it's
your mind's not there.
Right. And it's just like Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars doesn't make you do things in the real world. You watch it through the TV and you come away with its content and messages and etc. But you know, you have a whole group of parents that want to share Star Wars with their kids. So that's the business of Pokemon Go. The nostalgia. It plays out across that generational gap. And it's going to be successful. And people say, Pokemon Go, it's just a trend, you know, when we're in the age of trends, my friend. We're just kicking around the can, and whatever comes along, we'll pick it up and start playing it. And
I keep asking people every day at work, is Pokemon Go over yet? Is that trend over? No, man, it's getting better. Like, oh god.
Well, eventually, see, this is the point of it. The market idol will change, but the augmented reality it's here to stay now. That's what Pokemon Go does. It opens the door to mass.
It bridges the gap to other,
yes,
to complete virtual reality too.
You just needed that perfect idol that people could tap into and willfully engage in augmented reality. You got to make it interesting.
Well, because
one day
it was geo, because you used to be able to find like tracking devices that people put down throughout all around the world. Something like that. Basically, you have your little device and you find the coordinates, and then you go to the coordinates and you find the tracker, whatever, like the underground little treasure chest with geo.
It's like a closed circuit global positioning system. Like it's not a satellite GPS, but kind of a closed where you're just trying to find whatever it's connected to. No, I think I know what you're talking about.
GeoSync? No, I don't know. But people used to do that. But now you have an augmented reality where you can find Pikachu when you could have been finding like real cool stuff. Like they always put cool stuff in those little geo caches or whatever they call them. But anyway,
well, all I know is Pokemon will go, but augmented reality is now here.
Yeah, for sure. But it's gonna get to virtual reality soon. It's gonna bridge, like I said, it's gonna bridge the gap. It's gonna bring everybody over to it because they already have their phones. All they need is everything, like the little eyepieces now.
Well, and VR is going to be, it's been miniaturized. It's being rolled out with the PlayStation Morpheus. The Oculus is here. The other NVIDIA or whatever devices or headsets, they're already here. And this fall, they're rolling it out. It's like I said, I'm going to stick with my intuition here. 2016, once this year is over, the human species will be somewhat different.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds really extravagant.
Well, we both said there's huge changes coming this year, and whether those changes are seen on an economic level or a whatever level, we do know that people are going to change drastically.
Right. And that's the key there. Things are going to change. That's all I know. So just recently, New York Times here, President Turkey urges resistance as military attempts coup. Things are unfolding in Turkey, and I don't have much to say about it at this point, except for I personally believe that Donald Trump is directly linked to this coup.
Well, do you think? Okay, I won't even speak my mind because I have shit that we shouldn't.
Well, here's the thing: we know Donald Trump is a crypto Nazi, right? And he wants to establish a totalitarian
What's a crypto Nazi?
An undercover Nazi. You know how there's undercover cops? Well, this man is the lost bloodline for the Bush clans. And I'm going to get into the Bushes later with the 28 pages being released now, just in time for the conventions to stir up some ruckus for the politicians.
Dancing?
Exactly. They're going to do some hippity-dippity and some two-stepping to the 28 pages.
No, I'm saying like Mr. Bush was doing the other night.
Oh, don't even get me started. In fact, don't let me forget about that.
We'll get there
I'd
soon.
like to cover that.
We'll get there.
I believe, and I'm going to throw it out there with the rest of the Associated Press. You heard it here first, folks, on Auditory Osmosis. I'm breaking this live that we have intel from high-up sources that Donald Trump is funding the military coup, and he's trying to take over Turkey and use it to justify his wars once he gets into the White House. It's going to be a little satellite nation where he stirs up and funds terrorism so he can justify a bloated foreign policy with just tons of pig-eared spending and defense spending like we've never seen it. I think he's going to shut down NASA and reallocate all the funds into just imperialistic wars. But yeah, I think he's trying to take over Turkey, put his flag up, with the orange face and the hair kind of swaying in the wind. And the thing about a Donald Trump flag is, yeah, it's orange and the background's black, but it's not your ordinary flag. I mean, you got solid gold lining around that flag. So unless it's really windy, it's just going to just hang there. Kind of just like it's a well-endowed flag. It's kind of symbology for what Donald Trump really thinks of himself. This giant on top of Mount Olympus, throwing down lightning bolts of dollar bills and making it literally rain. But once in a while, he zaps a few plebeians. But if you really pay attention to a flag that Donald Trump waves, its hair is, how you can kind of wear, you can wear like mock glasses. He has synthetic hair shaped like his hair on the flag that actually blows in the wind.
Yep, I've seen it.
It's amazing. It's absolutely stunning. So I think in the next 24 hours, if we see that flag raised above all the Capitol buildings in Turkey, then we can confirm that this intel is correct. And some people say, look, why would you report on something so volatile? This is just my gut feeling, folks. I think deep under all of the, the orange skin and the permanent tanning bed reaction, you have a crypto Nazi trying to take over the world.
I think that's definitely part of, well, I don't know about the crypto Nazi, but the taking over the world, small man, kind of like Napoleon syndrome. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And you know what really irks me? So many people say, release your taxes, Donald Trump. Come on, I pay my taxes, and I want to know what your taxes are, Trump. Why don't we get this guy a blood test? I want to know if he's a first or second cousin to the Bush clan, because believe me,
no, I don't
got
think
the same
they have
totalitarian, fascist blood coursing through their veins.
Money, and he probably loved Bush.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but I don't know if they're related. I don't think they'd be related in any way, shape, or form. I just want to give a shout out to. I just want to give a shout out to the Rocky Mountains and how delicious their Coors Original beer is. It's mighty tasty. It's smooth and refreshing, and
amen.
I like it. I like it a lot. I used to get it for 25 cents a pint. Oh, now it was 25 cents a glass at Bennigan's a long time ago. Bennigan's. Sorry,
and that was crisp, cool, and refreshing.
I mean, don't you love it up here in the mountains, Mr. Hawkins?
Well, and I want to give a shout out to the Rockefeller Foundation.
Ooh.
They sent me through school. They give me a little stipend. So shout out to the Rockefeller family. I know you're listening, but yeah, the mountains, they're fantastic. I mean, the air is a little bit less dense. It's not as heavy, you know. I feel more heady. I feel a little light, uplifted.
Definitely. At 12,932 feet, we are pretty, well, we'll just say you're in a happy spot regardless of what you're doing. But
right.
Other
I'm always
things
in a happy place.
Other things contribute to my super happy spot right now.
Isn't that weird though that a McDonald's worker or a Walmart worker has to take a urine test or a drug test, but the senators and president of the United States do not have to pass a drug test? I mean, we want our athletes to be doping free, right? Dope free. Mm-hmm. And yet the leader of the free world.
Well, the thing is all the drugs that they do now are completely legal if they're given to you by your doctor, and most of the time they are. And if you've ever heard of Provigil, which is now New Vigil, if you've ever seen the movie Limitless, it's kind of that Limitless pill. It literally puts your brain into overdrive, and you can learn, you can do, your brain just clicks on a whole different level. But after taking it, you have to sleep for like 12 hours or something like that, or like 18 hours, because your body's just so drained, because your brain is just so like tapped out from that pill.
Well, isn't it funny that Washington, D.C. legalized recreational marijuana?
I think so.
I always thought that was a bit ironic.
Is that because it's a workplace, or is that because it's a way to push out all the homeless people they have there eventually with tax money?
You know, I don't know the politics behind it, but it
just would be a good one to figure out. Move. Well, I think they were.
It would be.
They were one of the places, because the federal bullshit back in, I don't remember the year, 94 or 84 or something like that. Colorado was one of them. Washington State, I think, Minnesota, and I don't know, a few other states were part of the first ones to decriminalize marijuana. And I could be wrong, but I think Washington, D.C. was one of them back then too. And that's just to kind of throw.
And you know what was up with that?
Fire.
With that disrespectful dance at the Dallas, what was it, the funeral, or was it a ceremony?
Well, it was.
I was a little bit.
It was both, but that's the song that you play to like signify. Okay, again, don't completely quote me here, but I think that's the song you play for a fallen officer. That's one of the main songs besides taps. I don't know if that's just military, but I think that's the word.
It seemed like a militaristic anthem. And I don't know if there was some kind of trigger sound for George W. For the listeners out there, just type into the Google, type in George W. Bush dance Dallas, and you'll get the video.
Go to YouTube and check that out.
And so basically, we have this former president who can give a speech. Like,
was he laughing in everybody's face too? Like, okay, sorry.
It was absurd. It was disrespectful, and we know that giving public speeches is something he was trained to do. I mean, he was a public speaker by profession. When you become the president, you become the mouthpiece for a giant bureaucracy. But his behavior after the speech?
Yeah, it was during.
I'm pretty sure it was after the speech.
Yeah, after his speech, and then
the three things. So basically, while this was going, everybody was playing the part, right? And also, emotional patrons of the Dallas Police Department were there in the flesh.
At that point, it seemed like a lot of people were praying, kind of like just with their heads down and being real somber. And
yeah, the gravity of the situation was hitting hard. And then you look over and you spot this jackass. Three things. He was either One, high as a kite off of prescription medications or off the record, some type of drugs. Two, he was drunk. But the reason why I do not believe he was intoxicated off alcohol is he gave a speech and then he was that plastered. That doesn't make sense. Three, he has early stages of dementia and he was having a bit of a mental a glitch, if you will.
You don't think early stages may have been some of his speeches? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, probably go hand in hand. But then again, I feel as if perhaps he was high as a kite and he's just being the stooge and the disrespectful jackass he really is. I mean, and you saw Obama looking over Michelle Obama, kind of like, hey, what are you doing?
Michelle,
making everybody uncomfortable.
Michelle was completely like, what the hell is going on? Like, why are you dancing?
Right. And to get into the real fringe, some conspiracy theorists say that his biosynth was failing.
His biosynth?
Folks, pardon this theory, but we have a group of fellow humans that believe that the government makes clones of very famous people so they can continuously be in professional mode, I suppose, while the real person can lay back and do whatever. So some people were saying his biological clone is about to fail. This is how they act before they die. And they point to other famous people who have bizarre meltdowns and then die like a year or two later. But that's just off the wall craziness. The point is George W. Bush, I mean, who does that? Who does that, especially at such a sad moment?
Yeah.
Or at a sad moment. Because
I think
there was disconnect. Did you see him looking back?
If we want to go into the secret society part of this, it's him and them laughing at everything going on. Yeah, that's him. He knew what he was doing. He knew what that's supposed to signify. But at the same time, the song and the time and what he did, though, his actions speak so much louder than his words.
He couldn't help himself.
Nope. He was laughing in America's face.
Well, and it reminds me of like when people like President George W. do disrespectful things like that in public. But it reminds me of the last, I think, correspondence dinner. Obama made a really crude joke that was slightly eerie. He was quoting, I haven't seen Star Wars, but people told me he was quoting Star Wars. He said, when he looked out to address the crowd, he said, this is a nice looking group of folks, and the fall of the Republic has never looked so good.
What?
Yeah, you can look that up. Listeners, you can look that up. And going back to like Bush, where he can't help himself but dance with some type of euphoria. It's that or dementia, folks. I don't know how a professional public person could slip up like this. But it just brought me back to when you hear really offbeat, crude jokes that other people think are quite funny. But yeah, Obama did say that at the last correspondence dinner and made some jokes about it being the last presidential election and har, he. But the Bush thing is a little bit more drastic. I mean, he looked completely disconnected at points, and to the point where he couldn't stop bouncing and dancing. Like it looked like Michelle Obama and his wife were trying to hold and anchor him down from being noticeably, just dancing.
What looked to be intoxicated.
That's what he was up to. Yeah, exactly. And then he kept looking back at like some of the instruments and looking at the people playing the music, and it was just absurd.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. To be completely honest.
And one more little tidbit that I got on the DL, on the down low. The 9/11 document, the 28 pages,
Right.
when they are declassified. And this is one more Ether Hawkins exclusive. But rumor has it that in 2 of those pages, there's a link to an encrypted video in the deep web where you can see George W. Bush and Dick Cheney engaging in homosexual activity.
What?
Hey, man,
what?
You heard it here first.
Are you kidding me?
No, there's a sex tape of George W. Bush and Dick Cheney floating around the deep web, but you can't access it until the 28 pages.
Allegedly?
Allegedly right now, but once those 28 pages hit the web, I'm sure your Facebook will be filled with Dick Cheney and it'll be filled with Dick and Bush.
That's so funny.
And yeah, you heard it here first, folks. And I'm breaking a lot of news tonight, but this stuff just needs to get out there. People have to really be aware of the world around them.
Jeez. Even I do, apparently.
Now this, Obama pledges more than $400 million for 5G research. So in his last, moves for, in the transportation sector, he kind of bolstered up the funds for automatic cars, and now he's kind of making some room for 5G research. And the 5G networks, they'll just make Internet of Things easier to implement, more bandwidth, right? More people connected. So it's good and it's bad. What do you think about that? We went from 3G to 5G.
To be pretty cool, but T5 was where it was at back in the day, and it's still pretty fast. I don't know. I don't even know how to answer your question right now.
Would you pay more taxes to get free internet?
Well, there's a lot of shit behind that free internet, and we both.
But would you pay a yearly fee for free public Wi-Fi?
Some cities already do.
Like your library. Well, you pay for your library, and the internet is the library, but it's a ubiquitous library. It's everywhere all at once.
Right.
So why don't we just tax it and cut out you could still have a private server. You'll have that option if you want your own private access. That
would just monopolize the internet, and then the internet would be government controlled, and then I don't know.
Well, there's that's how you have to.
That's not for me.
The regulatory agencies. The FCC. That's what it's doing with a lot of the content, right? It regulates, and you wouldn't say there's a monopoly. Well, there kind of is when it comes to the mainstream news and big radio stations.
For sure, and people like us and going through YouTube or whatever they're going through, it really can get the other side out.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I would pay a little bit more for free internet, but that's just me.
But what would that?
I would.
What would happen to you in that entailment of them starting to monopolize the internet?
Well, I think if the internet's going to be everywhere anyway, why don't we at least subsidize it and make it available to everybody? Before Google does it, because if Google does it, we'll all be going through Google. At least if it's through the government and we have a functioning local bureaucracy, we can still have people to regulate that. We can elect people to represent our viewpoints that regulate the legislation and the etc. With Google,
but
you cannot have that chance.
Yeah, it's completely monetizing the internet. or like not want it, but putting it exactly how they want it.
Right. So
Yeah.
I would like to have that just for a baseline. You know what else I would like to see? A real baseline for minimum wage. I think minimum wage, I mean, theoretically, this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to meet the minimum standard of living, right?
Yeah.
Well, the standard of living rises and the cost of living rises. So we got to get minimum wage to meet the cost of living, the minimum cost of living, or the minimum standard of living should be equal to the minimum wage. And if you want to live more lavishly, then you have to work harder to attain such a luxurious lifestyle. But I think as a baseline for a prospering society, we should have a minimum wage that is equal to the minimum or the standard cost of living.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but are you turning into Bernie Sanders or?
I just want a minimum wage that is fair for college students, and I don't want any of those college students to be in debt when they leave school. And I just want them to get nice jobs, get white picket fences, have kids and little puppies, and I want the world to be a happy place where we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Could
No,
everybody hold hands?
That's just it. You know, Bernie Sanders, I was discussing this, as a matter of fact, with a few of my cohorts. And I was explaining that if Trump is designed to pull out the patriot militia groups out of the woodwork, then Bernie Sanders was there just to make sure that the young kids didn't leave the Democratic Party. He was the borderline anti-establishment candidate that was the facade for Hillary to ride, just, bounce shit off of until the convention. We all knew Hillary was going to make it to the convention. So Bernie Sanders was there to get the naive, wet behind the ear, young college voter to stay in the Democratic Party because his other choice is crazy, crypto Nazi Trump.
We called this weeks ago that Bernie's not going to back out. He's just going to start supporting Clinton.
Right. And people say, well, if you feel so disenfranchised, why don't you just go vote for that third party? And here's the thing. We've had so many third parties. You know, Gary Johnson, he's starting to become the Ralph Nader, or as a lot of comedians say, the STD of politics.
Oh, here we go.
He's coming back, right? He's not getting anywhere. He's a protest vote. He's this, he's that. And, people are like, well, I don't even vote anymore. It's just a waste of my time. And I get that. But the reason why he's just a throwaway vote is the two parties have rigged the debate platform. You have to have, and I don't know when this started. I could double check, but I'm just firing straight off the dome. And I'm going to let it hit the ether and pierce through, hopefully, to the ear holes of the other end of intelligence. The two parties establish laws where the third party has to meet a minimum percent of voter participation or registration in order for him to make it to the debate platform. So if Gary Johnson does not have, say, 5% of the vote statistically, he cannot sit on that platform and have a podium and talk man to man, woman man on man, woman, man, dog, man, dude. And he can't do that unless he has at least 5% of the vote. Which will never happen because super PACs cornered the market, and it's hard to advertise through mainstream channels because they cost a lot of money. If you want to get your face out there, kid, you're going to have to start showing me some dollars and showing a little bit of skin. And Gary Johnson isn't going to strip. Gary Johnson isn't going to make a lot of money making these super PACs. And since the Supreme Court said that corporations are people, the protest vote is screwed.
Yeah. Well, the thing about our vote, I hate to say it, but a lot of the time it doesn't really matter anyway.
Well, and that's, a large percent of the population. And see, since most of America, they cannot read above an 8th grade reading level, they're going to find someone like Trump to be the quintessence of everything they want and a candidate that represents them. He's aggressive. He's reality TV star's most handsome entrepreneur. He's Donald Trump. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. And the crowd goes wild. See him live at the GOP National Convention, July 18th. Some side effects may include diarrhea, nausea, and you get the point. He's everything you're used to from the television. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
his show, I used to watch his show.
So people have that connection to him. Whereas, how do you think the debates are going to go, Mr. Ritter? Do you think Donald Trump is going to roll up his sleeves for the entertainment purposes and just try to start throwing punches at Clinton? Metaphorically speaking.
Probably.
Because the other end, you have Clinton, who's professional, knows the business, knows the ropes. And she's going to look, how when Alex Jones went on Piers Morgan and started yelling in front of him, and he was like, 1776 will commence again if you come for our guns. He looked crazy, right? Compared to the superimposed Piers Morgan going, yes, well, Mr. Joe, okay, Joe, but Joe. And, he just was professional, calm, collected. Do you think that's what Clinton's approach will be? Do you think Clinton will be calm, cool, professional, the cool cucumber? And Donald Trump, because he's an entertainer, a pompous entertainer, he's going to be like a Mount Vesuvius and cover Pompeii or America with his blonde hair lava.
Probably that one, yes. His blonde hair lava. Just think he won't pull. He just go at it 100%.
And America's going to love it. I think this will be the highest rated. And then on the other side of the fence, where the grass is not greener, you're going to have protests and riot gear. I mean, we're starting to look like the 60s, except for if you really analyze it, it's as if the powers that be who were frightened of the cultural revolutions during the 60s are turning everything that the people stood for. I was going to say we, but I don't represent that. I'm an objective analyst. I'm a third party, folks. They're going to take everything that the 60s stood for, twist it around, and have it be a weaponized form of culture this time around. So notice how the civil rights movement with like the Martin Luther King fiasco is now the Black Lives Matter. A total twisted, just a complete perversion of the civil rights movement, right? But that's how they're going. That's how they're operating under the guise of civil rights. They never talk about black on black crime, etc. And then what else do you have that was going on in the 60s that's going on again today? Drugs. You have this whole war on marijuana at the end of its just at the end of its program. The DEA thinking about rescheduling, etc. So that's going on again, except for this time the corporations will know when this rescheduling comes about. So Monsanto is going to corner the market once they fully regulate it. They're going to allow the corporations to step in and kind of take over before the little guy can really get going. And, I think that's why they're allowing Colorado and Washington to just go and be beta tests to see how the government can tax it and how it can be regulated potentially. It's a beta test, right? And the DEA federally, they keep coming in And they're like, oh, sorry, states' rights? What is that? Yeah, total joke, right? And then they rip up the Constitution, and then they burn down the dispensary. I'm sorry. They take all plants, though. And the point is once they legalize that, they'll allow the corporations to totally just go hog wild with it.
Right.
But what do you think about that? Do you think the 60s are coming back, but in a twisted form because the powers that be are kind of, they know how to handle this type of stuff?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like that, but it seems to be a lot of the same issues that were happening in the 60s, but at the same time, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's such a weird time right now, isn't it?
Right, it is. I mean, once again, 2016 going to change the world.
Changing everything.
Changing everything, my friend.
Yep.
Or what Bob Dylan said, times they are a-changing. But yeah, it's going to be a wild ride, and we have a lot of things to look forward to. Did you hear about Paul McCartney? His letter to Prince was auctioned for $15,000.
What? What was the letter?
Well, I couldn't see the actual letter, but the heading was fantastic. And I think I'm going to start on my parchment paper when I write to potential guests. This is how Paul McCartney started his letter off to Prince. Dear princely person. I mean, you can't make this shit up. That's classy and excellent. But yeah, he started it off, dear princely person. And I think I'm going to start using that. There's no context to use it with anybody but Prince and maybe a prince.
True.
But it's just too classy to pass up. So I'm going to start using that as my header.
It's
and actually,
cool.
If you want to tell Debbie to email out or fix my little memo heading.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Get that all worked out.
She's the lady in the top office, you know.
Yep, on top of the castle. The well-fortified fortress here at Auditory Osmosis.
She also has like a 50 caliber machine gun that sees. I mean, we made this place, and it was after that. What was that word you told me? Where she can she can see 360 degrees and like where everybody enters, and
she's omnidirectional.
What was the word?
She's omnipotent.
I think that was it. That's
something
exactly
involving omni.
She just loves the 50 cal.
She's everywhere, man.
It's pretty cool, man.
You want to hear a funny little story?
I do. Ooh.
So the feds, or a branch of the DNR, we'll say, the Wildlife Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, they're starting to use drones to carry M&Ms that are laced with vaccines to try to protect and cultivate the wild ferret population in America, the black-footed ferrets.
All the people like getting them and then letting them go.
Well, actually, these are the wild, just American ferrets. These are actually native to America. I mean, maybe if you follow the lineage, they came here a while ago. But yeah, they're lacing M&Ms with just various vaccines. But here's the thing. Do you think we as humans refuse to like let something not only change but die off? Do you think some species over the course of thousands of years are meant to become extinct and we just can't let go, so we do stuff like this?
I don't know. I think
coat M&Ms with vaccines.
Well, it's just weird. I don't know. We don't want things to go extinct, but
right. But if it's a natural cycle, why spend so much money trying to save the unpreventable or inevitable?
Yeah. Well, who knows? Who knows why people want to do it?
And it brings me to a different point. If we can drop candy to wild ferrets? How come we have yet to coordinate a plan to drop food to starving people?
That's true.
I mean, the argument there is if you teach someone to fish, he'll catch fish. But if you give him a fish, he's not going to fish, and he becomes dependent on the service.
Right.
But the thing is we have this technology now, and we've been known to drop care packages all the way back to dropping care packages along with some propaganda material. Well, I was thinking more in the East Berlin area when we were dropping stuff over into the Soviet side of Germany.
Don't you think that would breed a little bit more demand for that package that everybody sees falling, and then it would be even worse?
Well, I just think it would get people dependent on the package.
Yeah, but then it would be like a Mad Max sort of thing, and like everybody would race to the package, and then their clan or group or gang would
fight over it, and
just like a video game.
It would be the gold. Yeah, the Black Friday, the miscreants that crawl out of meteorite craters, and they're all looking for the latest electronic from the Black Friday sale. And, they don't have any, they're not well-versed or well-learned in the etiquette of social interaction. So, of course, when they finally see PlayStation, they go, PlayStation, me, want. And then they go after it, and they usually stab or punch or kick a pedestrian just to get a PlayStation or whatever latest Black Friday gadget. So I hear you. Those folks exist, the miscreants that crawl out of craters.
True.
I don't know why they would come out of meteorite craters. You think an extraterrestrial would be somewhat more intelligent?
Yeah, it just depends.
So
what kind of alien they are.
I was busy browsing some metaphysical material, and I came across something really interesting. So how most of the planet is water, salt water, mind you. And how salt water is more, is this true? I kind of brushed up on this paragraph. Is it true that salt water is more conductive than fresh water?
I would think so, yeah.
So it's just strange that the Earth is mostly water, and we're mostly water. And I think when we were talking about vibratory frequencies a few podcasts ago, you said, well, yeah, everything vibrates because we're mostly made of water.
Yeah, it was a fact or something that I heard before, yep.
Well, it's really interesting because I was reading this metaphysical paper on the origins of the planet, and it differentiates from like the Big Bang. It tries to incorporate the Big Bang, but it talks about how everything was frequencies and sounds initially, and kind of etheric. Everything was very vaporish and translucent, and didn't have any material, or it was not materialized in the sense that it had a gravitational field or matter bonded and dense enough to create a gravitational field. But eventually the planet was materialized from sounds and things slowly rubbing and vibing against each other. And then the materialization creates a denser substance that attracts a biosphere, and then it starts evolving life. So from the Big Bang to to just frequencies of sound in the spectrum of light, the planet was formed. And it took millions of years for it to get dense enough or materialize.
Gather all the matter.
Yeah, exactly. And then produce an atmosphere for intelligent biological life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why the majority of the planet is still not as dense. Like, we are more dense than a body of water. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The rocks and the geometric formations, they're more dense than the salt water. But the salt water is a perfect conductor for the sun.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy to think that everything initially was a frequency or a sound, and at a quantum level, it had multiple mini big bangs. And when it materialized, it created a dense substance that was very volatile, but eventually developed its own mass and gravitational field to develop its own offspring off of its own material.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Know. It's crazy.
It is crazy. About.
But that's exactly, I mean, that's what it is.
It is nuts. And, you know, when you're swimming in a pool, I mean, this is kind of ties in. It's more of just a random thought floating around in my head. I love when you throw, like, working out in a pool is excellent. Have you ever done, like, Tai Chi underwater?
Not really.
I mean, not necessarily completely submerged, but just enough to give you that counter movement that water has, the resistance, the struggle. I always think about how you can see and feel that you're throwing those water molecules around. But then if you really think about it, when you're in this I guess translucent environment of just air, you can throw air molecules around the same way you can throw water molecules around, but there's just less resistance. And it's so crazy to think that you really are some kind of fish in water. And they always say that the fish never discovered the water. So we have a hard time seeing what our environment really is, right? Because we never really get to think about it. It just is, and we are, and we do. Just some random thoughts in my head.
Random thoughts with Mr. Ether Hawkins.
Yeah, so anything new for you? Any exciting opportunities over the horizon?
No, not really. We got to get back to work tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah, that's true. Going back to work, back to the fields. Got to get plowing. Got to tend the crops.
Yeah. Tomatoes, man. We saved your tomatoes the other night. The storm didn't really come.
That's true.
It didn't hit you. It just hit
me. I
was
ready.
Yeah.
I was very, very ready.
Proud of you.
Yeah, I'm always prepared for those kind of natural disasters, I suppose, because I've seen it. I've learned from the past. I have that ability to apprehend the lesson from the past and learn from it. Some people,
it's pretty good.
They're lost. So scientists are one step closer to an invisibility cloak.
Cool.
And I've heard about this a while ago.
Have you seen the Mercedes car?
No.
With the invisibility? Check it out.
Jesus. No. Maybe that's more interesting than this.
Yeah.
All I know is like Berkeley was working on it, but now at somewhere in London, they're getting closer to the invisibility cloak, which is just for the stealth applications. Very scary, but also just so interesting.
It's absolutely super sweet. It's super sweet, man.
And on a more organic level, duck and basically baby ducklings and the certain species of geese or goose, they can judge shapes and colors. So ducklings have abstract thought organization skills an Oxford study finds, which is interesting. Like,
Hmm.
just because we cannot understand their sense ratio and how they perceive the relative translation of now of their environment, all the stimuli coming in, doesn't mean that they are stupid creatures. They just see the world a little differently.
Right.
So I think down the road we're going to find more and more incredible areas of cognitive discipline that these creatures inhabit. Because remember when I was saying, wouldn't it be great to modify the aliens on Earth, like the dogs and the cats, and have them help us solve our problems from a new perspective?
Right.
Yeah, I think this is the precursor to that. First, we understand them, and then they start to understand us.
Sounds pretty good to me, man.
Yeah, and I just can't wait. I'm going to be going on a little vacation up north soon, so I may be away for a few days.
That's cool. You got to do your shit, man.
And I do.
Yeah, I wish I could go up north. Oh, well.
One of these days.
Just get to go back home. I want to go fishing. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, actually, I picked up a fishing license this year, and I've been enjoying it here and there. Still haven't caught much. A friend of mine came back from his cabin with a few fish, so that was good. Good for him. I haven't had such luck.
Bummer, dude.
Right, but I'll catch something. It's bound to happen.
Is it better luck if I don't?
Fishing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I want to fish.
Ether Hawkins is a fisher of men, and not in some weird sense. I mean it in the biblical sense. I philosophically try to probe the human species.
And fish.
In fish. I don't even know if that's a right biblical term, the fisher of men, but
I don't know what that means. Oh, bummer, dude.
Yeah, you might want to pick that. Yeah, how are your plants doing over there?
Oh, they're doing great. Doing great.
Good.
I mean,
you notice I haven't really been.
We got this real cool setup out here, up here in the Rockies.
Yeah, and I've refrained from harvesting or prematurely harvesting anything from your plants, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I can't help myself. I think I'll bring that home, mix it into a dish tonight.
Well, you can. So just let me know. We got a lot of good stuff going here. But we got, again, like I said, we got to get back to reality soon. So we got to leave this.
Right, that's true.
This beautiful Rocky Mountain top. Rocky Mountain top. We'll say that because we're close to the top.
Yeah, it's a real shame when we have to exit the studio, but I always feel, we did the best we could ever do.
It's true.
And I hope the listeners recognize that we're given 250,000%.
Well, by definition, sir, I think you can only get 100%. That's not true. There's two of us, and we do give it the extra mile, so that mile is at least 6%.
And we never change the oil.
Mm-mm.
And we never check the odometer.
We just drive till the wheels fall off, man.
So, yeah, that's where you get the 300%. It's just full throttle, straightforward. Because the only thing I really understand when it comes to, like, my basic nature, I understand progressing, and I also understand success. I guess success and progress really ring with me. I guess it's in my genetics to be a successful, progressive type.
Right.
I don't know if I could shorten that. Maybe if I had to put it down on a resume, I'd say I'm a a progress or maybe a
I'm a
successful.
I live my life by binary code. Ones and zeros. It doesn't get any different than that.
Yeah, exactly. And quantum computing, it scares me because I'm used to the linear 1 and 0, and I built my entire life around the linear 1 and 0, the computation of walking upstairs. See, I never take the elevator. Elevators, they're for losers. I take the stairs. Right. I want to strengthen my thigh muscles, but I also want to get there before the elevator arrives, just so I can be there when that little door goes bing and it opens up and I'm standing there, and then I go Ubermensch bitch and I drop the mic and walk away.
Are you crazy faced?
Once in a while.
Well, like when you do that specific situation right there, you got the crazy
More of
face.
A crazy eye. More of a crazy eye.
Just the eye. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I get that. That's true. That's probably the scariest thing that 87-year-old lady has ever seen when you did that. I mean, what?
Well, and she recognizes a fellow stroke victim, so she lets it slide.
You also said she had it coming to her?
Right. In more ways than one.
Well, verbally there was an altercation. I think she won that fight. She started talking about, Bush and, Dick.
Well, hey, if my face ever starts to droop on air, you might just want to hit pause and maybe check yourself before you wreck yourself.
What do you got, Bell's palsy?
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
I'm
not trying. It's nothing against it. I'm sorry.
No, it was a transient malfunction.
I apologize.
And I had several doctors. I mean, after I got Lyme's, I wanted to find ways to really push my body to its physical limit. I wanted to hit a peak where I could push out, because I've read a few homeopathic books here and there throughout my years here on planet Earth. And one of the great lessons I've obtained, or I guess retained, first I obtained it, and I pull it out from the back of my skull, and I put it onto a desk, and then I read it again. That's how you retain something. You just keep it in the back of your mind. But yeah, I was told that if you push your body to its limits, you can basically detox from the Lyme. And this goes with anything you ever did. If you get a cold, or just anything major, like if you have I don't know, early stages of dementia like George W. Bush may have or may not have, try this. Just try it out at home. And if you need a guide or a tutor, just give me an email and I'll send you something back. And on the header, it will say, Dear Princely Person. But listen, just push your body to its limit and kick that virus out and show it who's boss. Because if you live your life by the success and progress methodology, if you live your life by being a winner, and not in a Charlie Sheen sense, I'm talking about real money in the bank, folks. I'm talking about knowing things that will help you get through the next big disease that you are confronted by. And maybe that disease is metaphorical. Maybe that disease is literal and you're on your deathbed. And I can't help you at this point, but let's get into preventive maintenance, people. Let's be responsible. And when I was pushing myself to my limit, I collapsed. Medics attempted to revive me. During that process, Lyme's disease was being excreted from my pores. And when that happened, I had a series of mini strokes or a transient malfunction. So one half of my face tends to droop. And I may be foreshadowing something from a future event in my life, because right now I'm time traveling. I'm coming through the mic, and I could be here in 2045. I could be here in 2023. But right now, I'm coming out of 2016. But as far as I can see, I'm still going to have this droop to the side of my face because I push my body to the limit and I don't regret it.
That's right. Drop the mic.
You know, that's how I want to close tonight. I just want people to live their life by two things, folks. Two things. Progress, success. Be a progress. Hashtag progress.
Hashtag.
And I want everybody to join me on, I don't know, maybe the 18th. And just join me in prayer here in Auditory Osmosis Studio. And we're going to pray for progress, for all the children and all the people out there struggling with the next big metaphorical or literal disease.
Yes. Yes, we will.
And you know, if you get too cynical or too negative, you gotta have a little flame in the spirit, an eternal flame. Maybe drink a little bit of the primordial soup.
Ooh.
And then mix it with a little bit of the alphabet soup.
Is that the
and then
soup?
Jumble that up. Jumble it up in your noodle noggin. Just make it, and then see what comes out, folks.
Are you just taking Campbell's off your cupboard, or out of your cupboard, and combining all of them?
Well, it was a metaphor, but I can see where you're going with that.
No, I thought that's what you were doing, so I apologize. I didn't mean to call you out.
A hobo stew or soup. I'm talking about the primordial soup. That black goo, that substance that was spinning and still is spinning in the universe and in each and every one of us.
The primordial goo.
What are you thinking, Mr. Ritter? Do you have any last inspirational words for the listeners?
I don't have anything inspirational to say this evening. I apologize. It's been a long day, but, well, maybe I do. All I can say is, don't drink and drive, smoke and fly.
That is an excellent piece of advice. And for anyone who doesn't really realize this, Mr. Ritter just being here in studio should be an inspiration to all of us. Because he's here, and he's ready, and he's supporting the progress.
Progress 2016/17.
Right. Wait.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're going to be continuing over into next year, and probably for the rest of time until the big crunch happens and everything that is expanding collapses in on itself.
Science. I mean, that's just how science is, you know? It works. So, from studio, Rocky Mountain Top, this is your host, Mr.
Ether. Shit.
Mr. Hawkins.
Ether. Ether. My face is starting to droop.
Shoot. I'm sorry, man. We got to get that fixed. And this is Nick Ritter. We're signing out. Y'all have a good one.
Stay